Welcome to The Lost Signals Discusses Film and TV. Using the revolutionary Manzur-Ramosi Thurlow scale,
or MONS,
we scrupulously review these art forms with an emphasis on narrative structure. Join us for another entertaining episode.
Hello, and welcome back to The Lost Signals, reviews film and television. Tonight we are reviewing the Snyder Cut of Justice League, and I am Chris Morgan, here with my own Justice League, Jonathan Ian Manzer.
This is my first DC movie since Man of Steel. So I'm going in as everybody's dad into watching the Snyder Cut.
Richard Perry.
Happy to be here.
And Luis Duran.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're part of the team, buddy. Does anybody have a log line, or should we just kick it off to plot? I'm really not doing well tonight. I probably needed a second draft for this. So
You needed a Chris Morgan cut. That's fine.
All right. So if anybody has a log line, Ian, why don't you kick it off with the plot?
Okay. Well, Steppenwolf is a middle manager in the Darkseid Corporation who is out on the outs with his boss and needs to do a bunch of tasks, which include conquering worlds, in order to get back in his good graces. They find out that the mother boxes are on Earth, which is a giant 3 MacGuffins. They're not actually just on Earth. There's also the Amazon planet, and 2 on Earth, 1 in Atlantis, and 1 stored in some tech thing. And it's basically the Justice League getting together in order to stop Steppenwolf. And they do. Although not without cost, which is a nice addition to this film that I wasn't expecting. And then at the end, they tacked on about a half an hour of Zack Snyder being like, "Here's what you missed by cutting me out of this." And I actually really enjoyed this movie, not knowing what's going on inside the DC. Most of it made sense to me. There was one where Jeff Bezos, Lex Luthor, had a little the boxes I didn't understand. I'm assuming it's a reference to another movie. I didn't understand why Martian Manhunter appeared randomly. And but beyond that, it was a fairly concise plot. They did great character development with giving each of these characters a unique story. I didn't need to really explore Batman's mythology because I don't know it. It was nice to see Cyborg's storyline. The Flash, I'm not very familiar with him, but I think they did a good job of developing him as a character. So I'm going to give this a strong 2. I'm deducting points because that last half an hour is awful. I mean, it's a neat concept, but it's a 4-hour movie. They didn't need that coda on it, especially since it's never going to happen. So that's my basic opinion of it. I'll pass it along to you guys.
A lot of the coda could have been spread up for the rest of the film. I understand at the point where he was directing this, they were trying to still build a universe, which, I don't know what parts they're dismissing or they're keeping. I agree with you, Ian. I'm going to give it a strong 2. Actually, to be honest with you, usually the worst parts of these films are anything having to do with Clark Kent. I mean, I don't know, for some reason it always just seems to be like a valley. But I agree with you, Ian. The character development was great. They really did a really good time humanizing it. It was really nice to see, because I think the three of us, when we went to see Justice League the first time, agreed that Cyborg's was, Ray Fisher was the heart of the movie, and now we get to see his whole story and realize you know, I loved what they did with this character and everything. So I'm definitely giving a strong 2.
I'm gonna give it a 2 as well. Like this definitely flowed a lot better than the previous version, and it was nice to see the characters get a chance to breathe and really let their stories play out. I wanted more Superman. Sometimes I feel like he got less in this movie than he did in the previous one. But yeah, I think it was good. The last half hour, like I was pretty much fine with like the beginning of that, but maybe the last 20 minutes, whereas like he just took a scene out of like the sequel that he was working on, and that Martian Manhunter bit where he's just like, "Hey, see you guys for the next one," and then he just flew off into the credits. Yeah, no, I think it's definitely a solid 2.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that you guys have mentioned, I won't bring up again. It's a solid 2 for me as well. The Martian Manhunter bit, I thought, was so shoehorned in and so shallow, and it felt so out of place. I was expecting it much sooner in the movie,
Yep.
not before the Steppenwolf fight and everything like that, but at least one of the things I like, maybe actually prior to the Steppenwolf fight, like, or at least it shows some kind of representation in the original like battle fight that they had when they talked about, heroes from the
Yeah,
stars coming down and everything, like, oh, okay. But then unprompted, just like, oh, we got Green Lantern, we got all these other, guardians from space. By the way, there's a Martian now, and people call me Martian Manhunter. Who calls you that? Nobody
yeah,
calls you that.
yeah. Like that
Like,
line.
okay, yeah,
Wasn't
yeah,
it John
like,
or something like that?
Yeah,
that
that's
was,
supposed to
yeah,
be his name.
yeah. So like I do like, I mean, they did introduce him early on when he took Martha's place to talk to Lois,
Mm-hmm.
but that still was just like, that's the moment right there. That's the
I
moment
was
you introduce and you actually do explore a little bit more rather than waiting all the way to the end.
I was
But
wondering about that. Like, what does that
yeah,
mean for her relationship with Lois? I mean,
exactly.
yeah, like she's gonna be like, "Oh, I love that conversation we had." She's like, "I have no idea what you're talking about."
So that's, yeah. So for me, honestly, the great thing about this movie is it was at least they had the amount of time to edit this in the right way, so it was cohesive. One of the biggest things that we criticized was it didn't make any sense. Like, you at least were able to give your characters plot points, beats to progress, and become actually the characters that we wanted to see in the end. So I think that was great for the Snyder cut. We saw
Yeah.
more of, obviously saw more of Cyborg, saw more of Flash, less of the other characters, and to the detriment of something like, I would have loved to see more Superman, but yeah, I can't. For the last, I don't know what they were doing the last half hour of the movie. Honestly, the epilogue, I did not like it. One, so definitely a solid 2.
Having not seen the original, it was a perfect amount of Superman for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was excited to see Superman show up. Like it was like a yeah, he's back, and then he enters the fight at the end. One I want to say is that it's for 4 hours long. It's kept my attention fairly well.
Mhm.
Mm.
And also, I liked that it felt that there were stakes quite a bit throughout this.
Yeah.
I felt that they're winning. Yes, they were going to win because it's a, but they didn't really. I mean, the Flash had to reverse time to win.
Yeah, they got a redo.
I only wish that there was a cost to Flash for having to go in the past.
Mm.
It, like, disappeared, and then you set forward a sequel to like that followed Flash and his, I don't know, multiverse travels, or whatever. But I felt that it was almost reset. We're gonna redo it, or like loading up a save. There should have been some cost to Flash, but that's just my opinion on.
Oh my god, it just dawned on me. Like that's exactly what DC does in the comics every single time.
Yeah.
Like they hit the reset button. Like they finally organically put that into a movie series. Huh. All right.
I think that's too clever for them in the Warner Brothers executive studio. But now that we put it out there, I wouldn't be surprised if they, comic book minded folks are, would think that way.
Two real quick things. Number one, I was happy with the amount of Superman in it, but I liked how he was like the fourth MacGuffin, because it's like, oh, we're waiting for Superman. We're waiting for Superman. Hey, guess who saved everybody? The Cyborg and the Flash. Ultimately, I mean, it really. I remember, Rich, you were saying one of the problems you have with the X-Men movies is they don't ever work like a team in the movies. This one, they perfectly look like the team. It wasn't like waiting for everybody for Superman to come and save everybody. No, Superman was just one more distraction, like Wonder Woman and Batman were, so that Victor could do what he did, and so the Flash could. I mean, it really was the Flash. I mean, they set that up when they resurrected Superman, that it was the Flash and Cyborg. That paid off at the end. I loved that. I thought that was so great. Really subverted, because I mean, I know that Snyder has a big thing on Superman, especially as Jesus, and I was really afraid he was going to be more of a presence, more of a hero than he was in the other cut. I was so happy with that final battle. In addition to the fact that, like, Steppenwolf didn't look like he walked out of 2005 MMO, like the last one, like he walked out of Diablo or something. But what's the deal with Superman's black suit? That part, like, I never, with regard to the comics, I never really understood either.
Well, in the comics, it's a healing suit. It's supposed to help him like
It absorbs solar
sunlight
radiation, in like a more at a bigger capacity than his normal bodies. So that's how he regenerates from dying from Doomsday.
Yeah, but in this one, it was a style choice. We're just like, ooh, black is in.
He's walking down his what is it, walk-in closet. He's just like, oh, I'm coming out. He's like, I'm coming out. I want the world to know. That should have been the tagline.
Shit, there definitely was.
Superman's got his groove back.
yeah, exactly. Superman got his life back. Yeah, I guess they didn't even go into that. I think they just kind of want to stylize it. And I don't know, did you guys hear that they came out with the black and white Snyder Cut version?
I did.
I guess originally that's what it is. So it's
up on HBO Max now.
They didn't waste any money changing, I guess, the filter from red and whatever to.
It's called God damn, it's got a really funny name.
Very forced.
It's like something like Justice is Gray or Shades of Gray or something like that.
Shades of Gray? No.
Oh, I wish they called it that.
Shades of Justice.
Justice.
That's
all right. So I guess we're gonna move on to themes with Louis. Oh no, sorry, that's Rich.
Themes.
Yeah, man.
All right. Theme is you can't accomplish anything without friends by your side. Like Batman knew that they needed to unite and fight back versus the Darkseid, even though before it was thousands and he only had 5 other friends. It had to be more than just that one person taking on this, as well as Snyder needing the fans to help him put together his vision in order to give us his finished product.
There's a lot of meta themes here. Is let the director do what they're doing. Don't it to the vote of the group in order to create a movie.
Mhm.
The visionary director to do what he does. This is a much better movie than the first one, from what I understand. I
It
also
is.
steadily, this is going to be a trend now. We're going to see a lot more director's cuts coming up,
Are we?
and
Maybe.
I feel that way
Maybe?
because Hollywood follows trends, and this was a success from what I understand. But I can't give Meta a one. I have to say that this is DC looking at the Avengers, and we need an Avengers, and assemble our own. And so I'm sitting on a 0 with this.
Louis? Rich? Or Rich, did you give a score? Or?
No, I did not give a score because I honestly don't know if I can like narrow down a solid theme. And I was gonna look to you guys for help with that.
There is no I in justice. Oh yeah, there is. Never mind.
There's
Strongest
no
one.
$sign in Justice League. See, for me, for themes, a lot of it is just that. I mean, it's so disappointing, and I know we'll get to this when its dialogue is just they beat it over the head with you. It's like, we have to do this together. We have to unite. We have to be we can't do this alone. And it's like, I get that. I mean, very loosely and not so loosely, actually, rather, with Cyborg's character arc is kind of just finding the identity within himself, considering he's fractured, and he's actually the living embodiment of kind of being human and superhuman to an extent, right? Whereas all the other superheroes are like Flash, Wonder Woman, with the exception to Batman, is that all the like these characters are trying to balance their life with their superhero life, without any of them actually being human, really. Like Aquaman's character is half human, but he's living in that bridge between existing in one world and the other. And all we really do is see him whenever he's on land. He can't wait to go back into the water, but when we see him in water, he can't wait to go back on land. Like, he can't wait to banish himself to whatever extent that he's in. Wonder Woman is having obviously conflicting things of being out of Themyscira to being in the human world, and now they both clash together. I feel like Cyborg was the one that really helped kind of push that idea for me. Otherwise, I really wouldn't have cared, because we're seeing that in other movies. We're seeing that Wonder Woman 1984 and the original and the first one. We already know how Batman's been established. Flash is the only closest one, and we got a very brief scene with him. We really didn't get anything with him at all. Whereas Cyborg was the one that kind of was the only one that was actually making me feel like there was agency and motivation in this movie. But hey, take it with a grain of salt.
Now, your points, Louis, are why I'm going to give protagonist a 1, but not necessarily themes a 1.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's yeah, I agree with Ian.
Yeah, I can't give themes. Yeah, I was actually, just like Rich said, I was kind of leaning on you guys, play off ideas if you find something, but it was a little shallow.
I mean, yeah. Like, the theme was probably the original theme was probably to make money. Like, now the other theme is just, I don't know, restore the Snyderverse, I guess. That's the case. I'm definitely giving it a 0.
Yeah, I think we all walked into this thing like, I don't have a theme. Throw it to the other 3 guys and hope somebody says something or not. But okay,
Yeah,
so sorry.
That's exactly what I came in with. So
Yeah, I was gonna say good versus evil, worked 100 years ago. I think we're well past that, right? Like, that's Let's go for the silent, but we're in the talkies now. Can do more than that.
All right, Louis. Why don't you keep going with antagonist then?
So Steppenwolf and Darkseid. I have to say I'm gonna give this a 1. I hated Steppenwolf in the first cut. I'm not gonna say I am not too jazzed or like excited about his new look. His old look his old look was dumb, and this one seemed very weird. It was kind of like, just briefly, I'll say, it was like when you see those like the faces photoshopped on thumbs. Like it's just so it just seemed like, imagine my face just like right here though. Like that's just like it was such a weird, but whatever. I do love what they did with this character, and I think it was Ian that mentioned that you could feel the stakes when some of these scenes were playing out, and I loved how they did the fight at the Themyscira. I love how they did I always love the one in Atlantis, but the fact that like they showed how he was not at all to be a sentinel, or a somebody that should have been at Darkseid's right hand side, and to like get the like the back arc of that, and like just the behind the stories of just like why he was sent there, and like how he's a fallen soldier, and um just trying to get back his dignity and everything like that, and still just be awful and everything like that. It just, I thought it was much better, and it just gave a little bit of richness to the character, like to the character, and also the story. Like it actually made me give a damn a little bit more. So like seeing all that play out, and then Darkseid just being, the very little that we saw of him. Sadly, probably not going to see him, but I would be very excited to see him in the future.
To build all that, for one, I really like the band Steppenwolf, but that's neither here nor there. The thing is that I love his character because it's almost that the heroes of Earth are incidental. He has a whole plot line going on that's way beyond the story that we're developing. It's almost as an overconfident general entered into some backwater country and was surprised when the locals rose up to defeat him. I would imagine that the stakes would be much higher if Darkseid was aware with his full forces came into taking out the Earth. It would require that huge army you saw in that in the flashback to actually defeat him. It seems that Steppenwolf kind of had this one until he didn't. That's what I loved about him as a villain, because generally, until very recently in Marvel, the villains have been okay, and this was a DC villain that's okay to good. So I'm going to give it a 1 for surprising me with the depth that he had.
I think you and Louis each brought up two sides of a point where, in that the last film, Darkseid, was just there. It was about the Avengers, I mean the Justice League assemble. But this one, you're right, he was in his own movie. It's just like he kind of walked there, took what he wanted. He had his own redemption arc, which was fascinating. I agree. I gave a shit. Actually, I agree with you both. I considered him an actual threat. The fact that everybody else was incidental didn't matter. He is on a redemption arc. He had a task, whatever. He's just waltzing through Themyscira, through Atlantis. Oh, he's gonna walk around, he's gonna waltz, take over the rest of the world. Why? Because he wants to get in good with his boss, as he had said at the beginning. He actually had pathos in a lot of ways, He really was, in a weird way, a tragic character and kind of pathetic character at the same time. He actually had dimension to him.
That point is the fact that he's such a threat and is still kind of pathetic is fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm definitely giving actually a very strong one. I don't think I've said that about a superhero villain in a long time.
One thing I forgot to mention too is that he succeeded. Like we actually see in the movie that he succeeds, but it just so happens that the Flash can just fucking go back in time.
Yeah, they cheated.
Yeah.
They had the Uno reverse card. Yeah, you guys you guys said a lot about those two that I very much agree with. Also, the fact that Darkseid, I feel like he's even more dangerous now having lost.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of love the fact that he lost so bad that he completely forgot where he left the anti-life equation. It's just like, hey, I found that. He's like, what? Where? I was like, Earth. Earth? Never heard of it.
He's like, yeah, never heard of it.
That made me wonder, like, why didn't he remember that? If this
right? Like, if I got my ass kicked for the first time and it was that bad, I would come back the next, if not the next day, like as soon as I healed.
Like, yo, he got whooped up.
Yeah,
he got that as beat. He got.
I mean,
man.
he had spaceships. I mean, I would have just gone up and like used mass drivers and thrown I would have thrown the asteroid belt at Earth. There's lots of luck, you guys.
He should take a page out of Thanos' book, like rain fire. It's like, what? Crash all of our ships into this planet. I want them to not be able to breathe.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want to scuff the anti-life equation.
Fair enough.
You aren't readable by the time you're done.
But there's so little about it that I know in the movie when they brought it up.
Yeah.
I'm like, do you destroy it, or is it just like a map of the anti-life equation? Is it in the planet? Is it on the planet?
Yeah, they didn't really explain
is it
that
the
too much.
planet?
I thought it was the glyphs that but I don't know. Like I have no idea.
That's what you would think, but then like
exactly
when you wiped out the planet, like wouldn't that be gone?
Yeah.
So yeah, when he first hammered down whatever mallet that he had under the earth, like it made a sign, but I thought that was just what he usually would do.
Yeah, I thought that was like his
on
call
Apocalypse.
sign.
Yeah, like that's just his thing. Like he would do the Omega sign and all that.
It's like his version of putting down the American flag on the moon.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like
yeah.
Takes out a spray can and sprays "This is Darkseid" on the planet's surface.
Side Darkseid.
But yeah, like I think plus like watching Steppenwolf get killed, and like what I love about that is like they kind of made it obvious that he wasn't mad that Steppenwolf got killed. He was just mad that like they disrespected him by tossing his head through the portal. Where he's just like, all right, everybody, let's go. It's like, we're gonna do this the old way.
Well, what a way though. Before it was them sending his crippled self onto their ship, and now they're like sending things to report his dead minions through his dead minions heads through a portal onto his like at the feet of his throne, and he's just like, come at us. I'm like, yeah, okay, gonna need some more firepower here.
It's like the Kryptonian's mine. Take everybody else.
If I were Zack Snyder, I would, instead of that last 30 minutes, I would just have Darkseid showing up and just wiping all of the Justice League off the map and winning. That's the canon DCU universe ending.
While Martian Manhunter watches from the background, just like, oh, looks like I'm waiting a little longer.
Shit! I was just about to go down there. Oh well.
It's just like,
No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Well, it's nice that we were all pleasantly surprised by, I to be honest with you, I looking at the 4-hour Snyder cut when it was just like, hey, we're gonna have to do this because we're obligated, and it's just like it's really a nice surprise that we have actually a character like this. I'm knocked my fucking socks off. So we all gave that a 1. We all gave Steppenwolf a 1, and it's on to me with protagonist, and I am just gonna say that the protagonist is shared to a lesser extent by Bruce Wayne Batman, and to a greater extent by Victor. I'm gonna say like Cyborg was definitely the heart of this film. He had, I mean, aside from most of the backstory, because everybody knows Batman's backstory, and if you don't and you watch Dawn of Justice, you get to see his backstory in slow motion like 70 times. So uh but the thing about Victor is it wasn't just about his backstory had everything to do with, it really gave, I mean, the Themyscira are the one, Themyscira and Atlantis, you had those two living parts of the history, but you really had, it was because of Victor and his dad that everything unfolded. And because of Victor, so I'm gonna give it a 1. I'm gonna say it's probably like a 60, 65, 70, 30 kind of thing. Victor and Batman Bruce Wayne, but I'm gonna do it because I feel like his backstory was the missing component. This is why this film came together. And I'm definitely, I'm thrilled again. I can't believe I'm saying this about this film, but I am really thrilled what they did with it. So I'm giving him a very strong 1.
Well, I'm going to give the entirety of the Justice League the protagonist there because it's the name of the goddamn movie. And I felt that they generally gave enough screen time to everyone. Even if Jason Momoa's Aquaman was mediocre. Actually, Wonder Woman and Aquaman had their own movies at the time as well. But I have to say, as silly as it was, I smiled when Aquaman went, "My man." I don't know why that hit me so well.
Pitch meeting.
But beyond that, like, yeah, I thought that like they did a lot with these characters. I really enjoyed. I surprisingly enjoyed Ben Affleck as Batman.
He's good.
Shocking to me that I thought he was. Um, Cyborg had a lot to work with. Yeah, so I'm going to give it a 1. They did a good job of exploring this large cast, and where Marvel had the benefit of having all of the setup movies, this one did what it did with that small cast, or with its cast. So, give credit.
I'm gonna give the protagonist a 1 as well. You said they took the time that they had, fleshed out what they could with the characters that didn't have any additional movies, and yeah, I found myself rooting for them a lot more than I did the previous versions. Like it was like before, it was like, oh, they're gonna get together, you're gonna have their fight, whatever. This one, like, it really, I think they gave you enough time to really get to know, like, not only get to know the characters, but to have them come to their own decision to join the team. Like, it wasn't it was never hey, we need you. They're like, okay, well, except for Barry. But like with Cyborg and like Aquaman, like they had to go through their own journey before they were able to be like, okay, like maybe I should team up with these guys and help out.
Or when the threat became realistic enough to them.
Yeah.
Personal. Which is very.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that I'm agreeing with you guys too. I'm gonna give it a 1. I love that, you know, it focused a lot on Cyborg. I would have loved to see a little bit more about Barry, but thinking back on it, we got more than we did originally. And the short amount of time that we got, I know they were planning, I think, this Flash to be one of the next installments. So I think that with the Snyder cut, they were thinking, all right, Wonder Woman, Aquaman already have their own standalone movies. Wonder Woman's going to have 1984 coming up behind. They probably thought maybe not to focus so much on that and edit out some of the superfluous things they might have had, because they did have at least 1 or 2 scenes with Flash that I thought was a little bit weird that they took out, but it made sense because I don't know. Well, I know Ian, you hadn't seen it, but the one when they're first rescuing the scientists, Flash gets very jittery and scared about going in there and rescuing people because he hasn't really done that before. But clearly, in the scene that we see in the Snyder cut, he saved Iris West, who goes on to be his girlfriend and future wife. So he's been doing it for a while, especially if he has the suit. It makes no sense in the original version why you would have the suit, know that it's like, you know, what did he say? It was like astronaut proof. Like like it's able to withstand, you know, coming back in from outside of space. It felt so out of place in the original movie when you're so far along in the plot. It was like halfway through the movie where he was scared to like just use to help save. But anyway, I love that they did that. That they were able to like kind of focus on putting the team together, making it cohesive, and actually bringing the stakes to what they should have been. So for me, it's a 1.
You had mentioned something, Lou, that I want to address is that the Flash is the comic relief in this, and to a certain extent. The problem is if you use him too much, it becomes. I could see him becoming really annoying very quickly. But they actually used him, I think, perfectly. A little bit of levity, but they made him heroic. They gave him a dramatic thing at the end. I think that they actually had the perfect amount of time for him in this movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So that's 1s all around, which Ian brings you to supporting.
Silas, is that Cyborg's father's name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That man is one heck of an actor. Granted, oftentimes in hero movies, they have that kind of tragic death to spur on the hero. Ben Parker, you're the Mama and Papa Wayne. This one they have Cyborg's father, but I think that unlike being the victim of circumstance, he had agency in choosing the way he went out in order to win the day, and that made it a very impactful sacrifice that I very much enjoyed. And I actually think one of the better ones in these modern superhero films. So for him alone, I'm giving a 1. I'll pass along the rest of you guys.
The thing about Silas's death, and it's the same thing that bothered me with Jonathan Kent's and Man of Steel, is that I didn't see a reason for it. Like, why did he have to be in the room with the box while he was superheating it?
To make sure it went through. I mean, to make sure it happened, to make sure he wouldn't be interfered with. Because if he was outside, I mean, it's one of those things where, you know, I don't know. I kind of took it as him saying like, I got to make sure this thing happens. You know, I mean, the whole thing with Jonathan Kent and Man of Steel didn't make any sense. This one seemed to make more of a modicum of sense to me.
But like Steppenwolf didn't even make a move to get in until like after he was already gone. Like after he disintegrated, he's just like, all right, now I'll try to break the glass. And then he ended up taking it anyway. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I think that was kind of maybe the intention that he thought he had to maybe sacrifice his life because he's done so much to the people around him that he wanted to make sure that something went through that he thought was going to succeed, but maybe it wasn't going to anyway. Just like, what he thought with Cyborg. That he liked that he wanted his life back, or that he had his life back, but he never really wanted it.
I hope that continues to be a theme in this universe. Like useless sacrifices by father figures.
Honestly, just useless, just like useless sacrifices in general. Sometimes I feel like.
I guess kind of like the Amazons too, when they got like crushed by the wall, like bury the mother box, and he just like bulldozed through the door like there's nothing.
You don't give a damn.
That's true. Yeah, it's funny that they have that their containment thing like involves sacrifice, whereas the Atlanteans, I think they're like, it's just like we designed something so none of us have to sacrifice ourselves.
Also, it had the barest minimum of security, which I love. I feel like I love the fact that they were just like, all right, we got this thing they need to protect. We're just gonna have like one night guard guarding this thing at all times.
Well, it's so crazy. Well, that's something I wasn't sure I was maybe gonna bring up in style. Where that's that they if you juxtapose those and see them, like how the Atlanteans, they were like forging steel. They were like doing everything. It was the Amazons. They were like forging steel, trying to create like a case around the mother box and everything. The Atlanteans were doing it. They were like burying it and like putting it inside like a pearl or something like that. And then the humans, they just bury it. And like not even 6, it was like 3 feet of dirt. Or like 4 feet, not even enough for a grave. They just put it in the dirt and everything. But the humans were the ones that kept it away from Steppenwolf the longest.
Yeah,
they were the ones that actually created motherfucking Cyborg, was the gateway, like key to like stopping all of that. It was the humans that did it. That's pretty badass.
Yeah. Well,
should we move on to that?
I mean, no. We're still on supporting characters. I was gonna do you have anything to say? I mean, because I know
Alfred. Alfred here.
Yeah.
Come on, Jeremy Irons, my man.
Snarky Alfred is back. I feel like that's a prerequisite to play Alfred, is to be able to snark and like be a little bit, just the tiniest bit of petty when you're dealing with Bruce Wayne.
Not enough.
No,
Jeremy Irons.
The key with Wonder Woman was fantastically petty. Like, I know you've been alive for what, like 5,000 years with that, but
the tea thing.
Oh, the tea thing, yeah. I love that. I love that entire scene.
That was so great.
So glad that was there. Like, as random and as unnecessary as that.
You sure you don't want any tea? He's like, no, thank you. Well, you know.
Any chance I get to see Alfred acting like that is a treat.
I'll see him throw down.
Like whatever. Jared Leto's The Joker's okay. Was there. I think she did a good job with a couple of the emotional scenes she had, although it was undercut by Martian Manhunter. Martian Manhunter was weird. I didn't like the look of him. It felt too prosthetic for me.
Yeah, Lois was great. I can't think of who's the other herald or the other guy that was speaking. The priest.
Desaad.
He was cool.
Archive.
I was hoping I was kind of hoping Granny Goodness would have a speaking role, but also I cannot picture anybody with Ed Asner doing her voice, so it's probably good that she didn't speak.
Yeah, get some Angela.
I don't know who they should cast as her.
Granny Goodness.
Yeah.
She was the old woman that was on Darkseid's left.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you saw her too, right?
Yeah.
You saw her too. Yeah, I was telling Liz about that. She's like, there's a character named Granny Goose. I was like, yeah, and she's a mother. Well, she's a see you next Tuesday word, but to say the
She
least,
is. She's probably one of those
I
badass
can't wait to see.
people.
Yeah, I would love to see her in a movie. Just like in Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
When she showed up, I was just like, oh damn, you're about to see something special.
She's
Oh,
like one of the
anyway.
few people that I've ever seen that just like even Superman. She's like, oh fuck, I got to deal with you today.
Mm-hmm.
What was really funny is obviously I said, I made my chief protagonist, Vector and Batman, and obviously I'm a fan of like the other team. I think Ezra Miller
Mhm.
Ezra Miller.
Is great. I think he's great. I'm a big fan of Gal Gadot's, and obviously Jason Momoa. Been a fan of his since Stargate. I think he's great. And Alfred, I agree with you guys. I haven't seen a snarky Alfred since the last time we saw a really snarky Alfred was in Harley Quinn, and then we basically got like Harley Quinn level Alfred, which is awesome. However, I mean, I'm definitely giving this a 1, but the one thing is J.K. Simmons as Gordon was ruined for me because of Harley Quinn. I will never look at
Oh
Gordon.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
my
Christopher
God.
Maloney.
Yeah, Chris Maloney. Because the thing is, Simmons has that disheveled look that Maloney has. So as soon as he hit the screen, I'm like, oh fuck. I'm like expecting him to be like this burnt out drunk and wants to be Batman's best friend. I mean, he's great, but because of Harley Quinn, I'm like, I looked at Simmons and I was just like, ah, God, you were, but otherwise, no, I think the supporting was great. I'm giving it a 1.
Giving it a 1 as well.
I'll give it a 1.
Excellent. So, Rich, that moves to you with dialogue.
It was much better this time around. Like everything that like they had, I don't know. It's hard when it's a superhero movie and you have to say ridiculous things and give them weight. And I think they delivered for everything that was said. The interactions with the characters were actually definitely better this time around. I loved the like the little kind of side story with Wonder Woman and Aquaman, where she has like a prejudice against the Atlanteans, and he's just like, I don't really have a connection with them, so I don't have the same prejudice against Amazons that you think I should have. And they have that little moment where he says a saying, and she's just like, "We have the same one." And he's like, "Oh, well, maybe we're not that different."
What do you say? The only one who hates the Atlanteans more than you is me, or something like
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was like, "I hate them for what they did to my mom, so we're on the same page." I liked everything with Cyborg and his father. It was a good. They made him. It's very easy to have him come off as too angsty. Very easy to have that happen, but they really struck a good balance with his words. And I like the message that his father left for him at the end. Barry was getting dangerously close to being very annoying, but he like every time he approached that line, he just like took a few steps back, and I'm just like, okay.
Yeah,
And yeah,
4-hour movie. I didn't like. None of it was painful, really.
yeah, it's very surprising. I was expecting to check out at some point, and it did. Like the dialogue did not do it. Like everybody like played their lines correctly. There was nothing one way or the other, like leaning one way or the other to like take me out of the film. And I'm gonna have to give it a solid 1.
I like, and to build off something you just said, and because it's kind of close to what I was going to say. I like how everybody had their own distinct voice.
Mm.
Everybody, because a lot of times you get into this thing and there's an element of homogeneity that goes along with it. You know, you have a couple of shining characters, and then everybody kind of has their, has more or less the same voice. I loved the fact that everybody had their own voice, and it was very distinct. The dialogue by that, the dialogue was distinct. Not everybody was speaking basically the same language in the same way, and that sounds really weird to say, but yeah, I have to give full props. I'm giving this a 1.
Yeah, I think you guys convinced me with the 1. I wasn't necessarily leaning on 0, but there were moments during the movie where I felt like it was a little cheesy, it was a little campy for my taste, and kind of taking me out. But now that I think about it, it's probably the stuff that was unedited.
Mm.
That's probably product of the original movie, and just opposed to the new dialogue, it just felt like it hit a little bit harder on the ear. Not to say that the epilogue was absolutely ridiculous and atrocious, which is mainly what I was going to give a 0 as well.
Oh, like
but no,
everything out
like,
of Joker's mouth.
and Batman, like I don't know what the like
Yeah.
that is probably the worst Batman Joker dialogue I've ever heard read, because I have subtitles on as well. So
Oh,
I did. I was
no.
yeah, worse of both nightmares there. But still, like I'm like sitting there just like, what the fuck are you talking? Like I just wanted at some point just the credits just roll. But yeah, like no, there was nothing in particular that really. I love what the character said. I don't think there's anything that I would want them to have said differently. Except for obviously like I said, like some of the Ben Affleck lines I'm pretty sure was unchanged because he never did any reshootings, or not many reshootings as some maybe the other of the actors, but I loved it. And I say this as a Ben Affleck Batman fan. So
Yeah,
I give it a 1.
I forgive the ending, which I pretend doesn't exist,
yeah.
of the Lois Lane Martha conversation earlier. I actually think that in general, Lois Lane Superman, Lois Lane Martha held a lot of emotional weight to it. I just thought it was really well acted versus the ending, which wasn't. So that they cancel each other out, and the rest of it's okay.
So does that mean you're giving it a 1?
Yeah.
Okay. It was really funny, Ian. I was going to say, every now and then the ending, you guys brought up the ending about the Batman Joker dialogue. I'm like, yeah, I've kind of written the ending off as well. So I like the fact that you're like, I pretending the ending doesn't exist. And now that I think about it, we all probably should have wore fake mustaches too, huh?
And so it's
I want them to release the mustache cut of like Superman rocking the mustache from the Mission Impossible movie.
What would be the implications in the DC cinematic universe, though?
And I would love it if it only showed up after he was resurrected. Like they have him like clean shaven in the coffin, and then he gets resurrected in the black suit with the mustache.
Just the mustache. No
Hey,
beard.
Clark,
no long hair.
What's what? That. What? That.
And maybe, just maybe, they edit in a goatee for the final fight. Like he makes that full transformation to evil Clark.
Or
that could be his the future version. So the future version of the Nightmare has a goatee, and that's how you know he's the dictator, Superman.
That's fucking great.
Oh, and I
Oh,
said the
man.
whole I said the whole thing about fake mustaches, realizing like I'm the only one without facial hair here. So
I was like, is that a knock on mine?
no.
It looks fake. It looks fake, but it's real. It's
No, no, no. It's not a knock on yours. There was a knock on, like, because when you go back and you rewatch the CGI removal of the mustache, it
Oh,
looks
It's
yeah.
rough.
really fucking
It's
bad.
rough.
It's horrible.
They were better off just keeping it in and throwing in a line. Where Lois is just like, it's gotta go. Like, what? You don't like my stash? No. It's like,
In
oh,
all fairness, he looked weird with it in Mission Impossible. So
yeah. That's a
Just
conversation for another
do
day.
the deep fake.
Okay, Louis, that brings us to you with style.
Ooh, so style's a little bit interesting. So we do get a mix of the original and the old, or not the original and the old, the original and the new cut here and there. I I I dug most of the style. The music and the sound editing was very suspect, and that was one of the only things that really took me out of the movie. Besides the part one, part two, part three, and I know Rich, you sent it to us in our text chain. Like whenever Wonder Woman came on, like
Oh
why
my
was
god.
it the howling? Like yeah, like the nunnery. Like I didn't know. I thought she grew up in like an Amazon like chanting kind of like
You know what
barbarian style instead of the howling,
you know what I think
Nordic
he was trying to do?
chapel.
So Xena, the warrior princess,
Yeah,
had the Bulgarian women's folk choir do a lot of the music for that. And a lot of their songs have them doing those like the intro for whatever music they were trying to do for Wonder Woman, but he seriously overdid it. Like every time she
Very
does
much.
anything,
So
anything she does.
I'll see, the only thing I can think of is because they had the only other time that wasn't within like the soundtrack was when Aquaman goes into the water
Oh
and
my
that
god.
woman is chanting and
Yeah.
also doing a Nordic thing. So I'm wondering if they're trying to make a connection there in some way, shape, or form. I don't know.
And even if
Because
they
with
were,
Atlanteans and
look,
Amazons like being so close and they were all like,
and even if they were, there was no reason for her to snip his sweater.
yeah, oh no, yeah. They just thieving. They just yeah. At one point I was just like, why even wear a shirt? He takes off his shirt every time. Like, what's the point? What
that's what
is the point?
that Beth said that was like a couple of strings on Twitter was the fact that he leaves the ocean, comes on land, wears clothes, and then takes off his shirt to go back in the water.
And it's only his shirt. Like,
Yeah. Well, like, what's the point?
I had the subtitles on, so every time Wonder Woman's theme, it was something Lamation or whatever. And it was just weird every time she appeared on screen. That subtitle announcing her music appeared, but I don't know. It's
Yeah, I mean, like, go back style wise, like, camera work was fine. I felt like there was instances where it jumped, but I think that's because it's 4 hours, and with the two different cuts that we got, we're getting a little bit of Whedon, a little bit of Snyder, a little bit of whoever else, but like, I didn't feel like there was many inconsistencies besides maybe some of the framing. Uh, and yeah, really just the sound design, because there's some things that didn't sound right. It didn't hit my ear right. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but and yeah, the soundtrack just It was just so strange. It's hard to say if I give this a one or not because half of this has already been done. It's already been out.
I'm in the same boat. Like I like what he did. I like that it has his thumbprint on the entire film instead of being such a mess that stumbled its way out of the editing room. But the parts that took me out of it hard. And it was like some of the music choices, the slow-mo, I got very tired of
Hmm. Martian
pretty
Manhunter
early.
too. The Martian Manhunter bit
Oh
was
yeah.
something that like I I was
Like I
just like,
heard
where the hell? I was like,
yeah,
why
I heard he was gonna
now?
yeah, I heard he was gonna be in it, but I wish he wasn't. Because the two
Yeah.
scenes that he was in
Exactly.
were absolutely
Exactly.
worthless. Like they meant nothing. They added nothing to the story, and they seemed like cheap tricks to get like more money from the studio to make a sequel. Like, see, these fans want the Martian Manhunter. Like, what? Like, let me do my thing. Like,
I loved the fact that he said part one, part two, part three, part four, because originally when they were talking about it, they were talking about doing a mini series. But I love films that are self aware. And this
mm,
is me saying about Zack Snyder too, which I love the fact that he said this way he kind of gave you a natural, okay, we're asking you to sit for 4 hours. We're asking you to sit for 4 hours in the comfort of your own home, but let's give you natural breaking points. I thought that was great.
Mm.
Especially since that usually these director's cuts usually are awful. I mean, James Cameron, I have yet to like a director's cut of his. I always feel like they're very self-indulgent. This one actually more was actually more. Yes, let's all admit we're omitting the world. Let's all admit we're omitting at least 90% of the epilogue, if not more. And Martian Manhunter could have easily been edited out of this thing. And I happen to like Tom Holkenberg's score. He turns out he's also scoring Godzilla. I mean, I really, again, because he worked with Hans Zimmer on before, they came up with the Wonder Woman theme, which I still think is fucking brilliant. And shades of the Man of Steel theme, which I think is one of the which I think is the thing that really made Man of Steel work with Hans Zimmer's score. Believe it or not, the slow motion, yeah, didn't annoy me as much as I thought it was going to. It by the end of it, I was kind of like, okay, but it really wasn't as bad as a lot of Snyder as I've seen in the past. But I am going to give credit where credit is due. There's things I can nitpick, but credit where credit is due. I'm going to commend that this 4 hour movie actually improved it, that it was self aware enough to give us breaking points in it. I like Hulkenberg's score. And, as I said, for any faults it has, the fact that this really did feel like a passion project, that he didn't take any money for this, or, I'm sure he's getting some whatever. But the important thing is, I think the proof is in the pudding. I was really skeptical walking into this, and I'm gonna have to give it a 1.
I don't have the first one to compare it to, but from what I know, there's a Goldilocks movie somewhere. If this was a little too long and the other one was a little too short, it has to be somewhere in the middle. Like I think Zack Snyder could have used an editor on this.
oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
And for that, I'm going to deduct the point for a 0 on this.
Like I don't like I don't want to give it a 1. I really don't.
The dope.
But
Yeah,
I but at the same time, you know what? I will give it a 1. But also, I'm going to say that there were things that he could have cut out of this or edited it down and made it less than like 4 hours is just it makes it too much of a vanity project.
Well, I mean, I think the biggest problem was like if he had chopped out that epilogue, and maybe tightened a couple things up, it would have been perfect. But I think the epilogue was the biggest drag of the whole thing. It did not belong there.
Yeah, so Chris, Rich, you both gave it a 1.
Yeah.
Okay, I think to even it out, I'll give it a 0 because I can't bring myself to give it a 1 for a lot of the reasons that we brought up. But honestly, for the fact that you were pushed to put out a Snyder cut, you were the one that doing the editing and everything, that you could have edited this much better. The epilogue could have been in the middle to when literally Ben Affleck said, I had a nightmare yesterday.
Yeah.
And that would have made much more sense to be like, all right, what nightmare? And then you just be like, well, like,
Ooh,
I don't give a shit if you're like,
oh my god, that could have been like one of the parts, like the title cards, or like do it like
yeah,
Always Sunny style, where it's like Bruce Wayne's nightmare, and then like have that scene play out.
or have that scene literally at the end when everything, like after Flash has like literally gone back through time, and just be like, yo, like I saw something really fucked up. I really need to tell all of you about it, and then go to this epilogue. And obviously, not the. I would love to see the original one rather than the one that we got, or then this one, and then along with the original, because this one I did not like at all.
I
If
mean,
yeah, I would have scrapped that. I would be like, nope, we're not doing that.
the worst part about that was the dialogue between Batman and Joker. I mean,
I
that
hate
that
Also,
that
also
really
Mira's,
made that made it painful.
also Mira's British accent for some reason.
I wanted everybody else to talk except Batman and Joker. That's how bad it. Like I literally, that's what, and that's why I have to give it a 0. Like it's poor editing, it's poor, and I didn't want to. I didn't give dialogue as a 0, but that scene in particular, some of these scenes, yeah. Like I can't. If I'm not gonna deduct it from one, I gotta deduct from that. So yeah, sorry, that was a 0.
I was just about to say I gave it a 1, so anybody wants to give it a 0, please feel free, because I was teetering, and when you brought up the parts about the chirons in between it, I'm like, you know what, I am going to. But we did a review a few weeks ago, and I decided to give a 1 because everybody was on the fence. So I decided, like, all right, let's just balance it out, two ones and 2 zeros. I don't remember what movie that was from, Ian. But anyway, yeah. Okay. So that moves me on to recommend, and yeah, I recommend it. I enjoyed it. It did not feel its length until you get to the epilogue. And I know we keep trashing that, but that really is the biggest mark against this movie. But overall, I was really I was really pleasantly surprised. So I'm giving it a recommend.
I recommend it too. Oh, sorry, you want to go in?
No, go ahead.
I I recommend it too. I mean, it was a fun popcorn movie. It, as a comic book fan, it did everything that I was expecting it to. But like we said, it's for a 4-hour movie. It holds your attention. That should say a lot. It kind of hits on every single beat. It's poignant. It's action packed. It's cheesy. It's campy. Um, all in all, thank God it's not romantic in any aspect that I can think of. But no, it's a recommend for me. I'll say that.
Could have used a little bit more Arnold Schwarzenegger making puns, but beyond that, sure, it's a fun movie. I'm glad that the DC fans have a what I consider a decent film. Like, yeah, it's offensive, it's long, but it's Joe. I'm a Marvel guy, so I'll give credit where credit's due.
Mm.
They did a decent job, and oh, go enjoy it. And I think Zack Snyder, good on you. You're Joss Whedon.
I definitely recommend this one. Like we all said, like the 4 hours just, I won't say flew by, but you didn't, like, I didn't really look at my watch at all throughout the whole thing, except just to, like, I don't know, just give like a general idea where I was at within the movie, because things flowed so well. And this, along with the director's cut of Batman vs Superman, were like better outings than what we got in the theaters. And yeah, I definitely recommend.
Okay, so that leaves us with our scores. We all gave plot a 2, we all gave themes a 0, and we split on style 2 1s and 2 0s. Rich and I gave it an 8. Louis and Ian gave it a 7, which leaves us with an aggregate score of 7.5.
About right.
Okay.
I dig it. Very appropriate.
Passing grade, Snyder.
Yeah, very good. So does anybody have anything to add?
I had a revelation when somebody said DC is for decent movies. I'm like, it's decent cinema. Are we at that point yet? I'm not sure.
Stress on the.
I was like, not yet, not quite yet.
Maybe 2 more movies. Give it 2 more movies, and then we'll.
Yeah, I said we gotta level that out, right? We'll use that later
Well,
on.
we still got Suicide Squad coming out, the sequel.
I'm excited.
All right, gentlemen, if there's nothing else, I will sign off. I'm Chris Morgan, Born to be Wild, along with Jonathan Ian Manzer.
If they combine Martian Manhunter with the old Hannibal Lecter movie Manhunter, it'd be great.
Rich Perry.
See you guys in the sequel.
And Luis Duran.
Have a good night, y'all. Thank you for joining us.
Editing and engineering by Christopher Morgan. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates.
Or mods?